about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello.
What's up, Denise?
You're up.
That is correct. Hey, before we get into this at all tonight, a big happy birthday to Andy. Belated as it is, but a big happy birthday to your baby boy.
Oh, so baby, you're 39?
Yeah, really. Yeah, but they're all babies. I got two baby boys. One of them's older than the other, but they're always going to be my baby boys.
Indeed, that's exactly right.
So anyway, his birthday was on Monday,
Yesterday.
ladies and gentlemen. That's
Yesterday.
why we're talking about it. Yeah. Welcome to the Drive Time SITREP, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Neuen. I am headed home after a grueling day in the office, and I have called into my trusted and valued SITREP analyst, intelligence analyst, SITREP analyst. Now, I've called into her for a SITREP, and Denise, I've had a hell of a day.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, I can't wait to hear about that. But I'm taking you along, ladies and gentlemen, for the ride. I will, at various points throughout this trip, undoubtedly let you know where I am, because that's always just seriously fascinating. Don't you think, Denise?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I forgot to do this last week, Niecy. Merry Christmas to you.
You did. I thought we went a week and you didn't say it.
Yep. Kind of felt weird all week, didn't it?
Yeah. Actually,
right,
I actually did. I did think of that, and a couple of times later on in the week, I did think of that.
But we're going to make it up. We're going to make up for it right now. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Denise.
Merry Christmas.
And let me ask you this. Were you by any chance an Easter worshiper this past weekend? Because now I have learned, thanks to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and I'm sure they were not alone, from those that are on the left that cannot bring themselves to say the word Christian or acknowledge any significance of individuals that happen to be Christians.
Especially
so
those that died.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They've changed the name of it, and we are now all known only as Easter worshipers. I'm having trouble with that, Denise, in a major way. But given the fact that I consider both of those people to be significant mental patients, I would like to ask a question of you regarding the new term, the new definition of a Christian, being that of an Easter worshiper. What the hell are we throughout the rest of the year?
Well, I guess, we worship Santa Claus on Christmas. I guess.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I don't worship Santa Claus.
But I'm saying according to them, and okay. we worship Earth Day, and we.
Wow, none of that I worship. So am I just devoid of all substance throughout the year, with the exception of one day when I'm an Easter worshiper?
Well, obviously they have a problem with the Christian doctrine. So maybe with all the other things that they're trying to eliminate, and rewrite the Christian doctrine. But Kate Smith is unavailable for comment.
Yeah, so I've heard. And let me tell you who went off the rail on that one was one Donna Fiducia, who was a huge Philadelphia Flyer fan. And I understand that it's not limited to Philadelphia. That is it the Rangers or somebody else is pulling this crap too?
I don't know, but there are others that are going the other direction, and they're playing her like a once an hour.
Oh, really? Other teams?
Other team. They may be minor teams. I don't know what other kind, but I mean, there are other places that have taken a hard stand on this one, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a good thing. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down to real business here. Although, Denise, quite frankly, the fact that I was redefined and so were you and Donna and most of the Tom Del Beccaro are now all Easter worshipers. Now that we've learned that, I'd say that's significant news. Would you not?
Well, I've been called a lot of things. That's the first time I've been called that one.
No kidding. Let me ask you this. Is it possible to be a racist Easter worshiper or a white supremacist Easter worshiper?
A nationalist Easter worshiper?
Yeah. Or a Nazi. What about a Nazi Easter worshiper?
Isn't it all kind of remarkable? I mean, what other names do we have to be? Do you remember back at Janet Napolitano, as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, came out with this huge long list?
Yeah, you mean Janet Napolitano?
And you know how Nancy Pelosi was calling astroturfers and brown shirts. Do you remember all those kinds of things we were called? And they still call us names today.
Oh, yeah. Teabaggers. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty gross. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me formally welcome you to tonight's Drive Time Sit Rep with the ever-stellar Denise Simon. My name is Don Neuen. Denise, let's timestamp the show before I say something that I have to go back and edit and let everybody know when this show's taking place.
It is 8:42 p.m. Eastern Time on the 23rd of April in the year of our Easter worshipers, Lord, 2019.
Hey, very good. Hey, let me ask you this. What about an Islamophobic Easter worshiper?
Is that even possible?
You got me. It's sickening. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but that I was highly offended at that and actually voiced my opinion in social media. I hope you did too. All right, Nisi, what's going on in your world? You said you had a rough day. What happened?
I don't know that it's rough. It's just one of these days that's, you start kind of putting all of these things on the table that are just kind of flying around us and just kind of let them settle. And you start looking at them and you go, really? But let's start off with the census, because the census case is being heard before the Supreme Court. And it appears to be too close for comfort. There is some indication that we might have a 5-4 vote in favor of the government on putting the citizenship question back on the census document. Now, that's a big might. But we got to have a decision here pretty quickly, because at some point those forms have to go to the printers. And some printers are going to be very happy getting that order.
Hey, who is blowing in the wind on this one?
It's too hard to tell, but it seems to be the normal ones. Sotomayor, she apparently says that you look like you have an answer for in search of a problem, and it's you're creating some kind of a problem. I don't know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg asked any questions.
No, I mean, who's actually wavering that would make it a 5-4 as opposed to a 4-5?
We don't really know that yet. I'm kind of waiting for some experts that were in the courtroom to kind of send some things out. I'm just kind of getting snippets, and I don't know when the decision will come down. I don't believe that we're going to have to wait till the normal June timeframe for the decision on this one to come down. I think it will be one of the earlier decisions, if not all. And I don't know who's going to write the opinion or the dissenting opinion. I have no idea. I don't. They just kind of randomly decide who gets to write those. So we shall see based on.
Isn't it amazing that this is even up for discussion?
Well, here's an interesting thing. I think it's a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. I do want to know who's in this country. I want to know everybody that's in this country that claims some kind of quasi-residency or permanency, that whether they're here illegally, under a visa, an overstay, and all those other kinds of things. But the reason we do a census is the bigger question, and that is because of federal programs. And a census result generally tells us where districts have to be necessarily redrawn, which then you kind of get into the whole gerrymandering thing, and then you start with those lawsuits. But it also affects healthcare, entitlement programs, education, and I would say the representatives, meaning the people, members of the House themselves. In the case of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, and it just bothers me, and that is that some of these members of Congress coming from these voting districts are actually representing a voting district where a large majority of the residents in that voting district are already foreigners of some sort. You know what I'm saying? So they already get a voice. Like Ilhan Omar. I mean, let's face it, probably 2/3 of the voters in her district are of no loyalty to the United States if they come from Somalia.
Yeah, I hear you.
Same thing with,
I see that it is a double-edged sword, but the bottom line is, in the best interest of the United States, we need to know who's here.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And then what we need to do is stop giving all these people that are not U.S. citizens the benefits of a U.S. citizen. Well, you have to go back to the Supreme Court for that one.
I know. Well, hey, I guess the next thing that'll go up against the Supreme Court is going to be some nutcase like Bernie Sanders that wants to let the Boston bombers vote.
Well, it's actually worse. It's actually, that just happened to be a question that somebody asked him. But let's go beyond Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. How many other Americans, maybe Americans, I don't know, do we have sitting in our prison systems that have done much worse than Dzhokhar Tsarnaev? We have the Unabomber. You know what I mean? Those people that are in there for triple life. Now,
but I got to say something. The Boston bomber. It's hard for me to find someone that is actually worse than that. I might find people that I can collectively group into one grouping that says, you know what, these people never should get out of prison, or they should be put to death so that we stop paying for them to be in prison, but they most certainly should never vote. I mean, anybody that's going to kill an 8-year-old that's sitting watching a race in Boston, it doesn't get worse than that. They just get grouped in with all the really, really evil characters.
Well, if we take Bernie Sanders' argument to heart, then do we get, because we have some Gitmo detainees, and that's essentially a U.S. prison. Do they get to vote too?
I don't take Bernie Sanders to heart.
Now, here's the other interesting thing. Do they get to vote?
I think he's living and running in the wrong country.
Yeah, I agree with that. But do they get to vote on everything? In other words, if you get to a prison reform bill, at the state level, do they get to vote on that?
Wonder how they'd vote with that one, huh, Denise? What do you think?
Yes. Now,
it's a joke.
Here's the other thing. If he wants these people, because, they're serving their terms, okay, well, they should be, but they lose their civil rights. Well, voting isn't a civil right. It's a state right.
Go ask Stacey, what's her name, that ran for governor of Georgia, that question.
Exactly. Okay.
Or for every liberal.
So
it's a birthright, right, Denise?
Right. So correct. So do they also get to keep their Second Amendment right?
It's pathetic. I'll tell you though, what's more pathetic than the ideology and the agenda and what comes out of Bernie Sanders' mouth is that people actually follow that. Well, people actually support that.
He doesn't get the sole blame for this because Kamala Harris is saying the same thing.
Of course.
So, if you're giving up your rights and he wants you to keep your right to vote,
which we don't have.
Right. Correct. So, do they do they get their First Amendment back, and do they get to keep their Second Amendment? You see what I'm saying? So can they walk around with a sidearm while they're in prison?
Of course they can. That would be awesome. Well, Denise, here's the other thing that we should discuss while we're on this topic. A lot of times these people are incarcerated and they end up being in prison in a community or a zip code or a part of a state that they actually don't reside in and, quite frankly, maybe never have even lived in. Does that mean that they can all of a sudden, because they're semi or permanent residents of that particular institution, that prison, are they able to vote locally despite the fact that they've never even lived there?
Well, I guess they'd have to reapply or I don't know. You don't apply. You just automatically given it wherever you are. So you get to vote in two states, the state that you had your voting rights in originally, and then in the second state, maybe you get to vote twice.
Or maybe we can just follow the Democrat doctrine here, and whether you are actually dead or alive or a citizen or not, you can just vote. Because everybody on the planet and everybody that's in heaven or hell can vote if you're a Democrat.
Well, you and I have often talked about a good vote is a vote from an informed voter. And I would argue we are still at least 90% of the population in the United States is not an informed voter.
Our present audience excluded.
As much work as we do, I still don't know enough.
No. Look at our listening audience.
True.
I have all the faith in the world in our listening audience. The only thing that we really need to ask of you people is that you help educate all the mental patients
the next person.
That are aimlessly walking around with their face buried in their cell phone.
Yeah, and read all your news items from Facebook.
Yeah.
Where these articles get put up, I get asked about them all the time. And then I go look at it and it's dated 2016 or 2009. It's like, give me a break. This isn't news. Well, it's recirculating. Why? Because somebody went and got some old thing and put it out there?
Exactly. Hey, I got to throw you a big hat tip and a big kudo. Ladies and gentlemen, back in, I believe it was sometime in 2017, Denise educated me and probably all of you as well on at the time, a little-known organization in a 4-story building in St. Petersburg, Russia, that was called the Internet Research Agency, the IRA. Now, I remember vividly, Denise, giving you a call before Donna and I went to the South Carolina Tea Party Coalition Convention in January of 2018 so that you would re-brief me on that, bring me back up to speed on that. And it was one of the key points that I talked about during the speech that Donna and I gave. Well, hat tip to you, Denise Simon. Now, granted, you weren't the only one that had dug this up, but you were one of a handful that exposed this IRA, Internet Research Agency, way early in the ballgame. But if you people have read even the table of contents from the Mueller investigation report, you will notice that way up on the top of that, at the beginning of, I want to say page 9, maybe, 8 or 9, what do they talk about, Denise?
The Internet Research Agency.
Bingo. And all of a sudden, now you got everybody talking about it.
What's particularly fascinating was the fact in the Mueller report where in 2014, Moscow, or St. Petersburg / Moscow, sent Internet Research Agency operatives to the United States. And we gave them a visa. Now, what were they doing? We don't know that. It's kind of like, hello, what were they really doing here? Well, I'll remind you of one thing. Jade Helm. Remember that one?
Yep.
Jade Helm was this big, huge scandal perpetuated by our friend Alex Jones. I say that. Anyway, where the Obama administration was having the U.S. military essentially taking over the four southern border states, and they were training to take over towns. They had brought in all this equipment and blah, 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 blah. And this was the beginning of the point where Obama was not going to leave the White House at the end of his term. All of that was started by the Internet Research Agency.
Ah, very interesting. Yeah, and Alex Jones bought right into that, didn't he?
Well, the governor of Texas bought into it.
Well, I can't tell you how many phone calls I got from people, you probably got the same, in which, hey, man, I'm driving out I-20 and I'm seeing caravans they're coming to get us. They're all coming to get us.
Yeah, we had tanks and Humvees and
exactly.
Roof-mounted 50 calibers. And
Well, before we go to break here, Nisi, we got about 3 minutes. I want to bring up something, and I'm sure you will agree with me on this. I'm sure the listeners will. But the bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen, we can talk about collusion, we can talk about no collusion, we can talk about obstruction, we can talk about no obstruction. And I would love to get into the Mueller report after we get back from the break, Denise, if you don't mind. But one thing that we all need to remember and that we need to keep in perspective, all of this stuff took place under whose watch, Denise?
The same one I said was happening in 2014, the Obama administration.
And who were the people that were, say, I don't know, running the CIA at that time, Denise?
John Brennan.
Who was the Secretary of State during that time?
John Kerry.
Who was the head of the FBI during that reign?
James Comey.
And what about the head of the DOJ?
Loretta Lynch.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the Barack Obama administration owns every bit of everything that we've all been talking about since Donald Trump first took foot. Well, quite frankly, prior to that. But most certainly, since he took foot in the White House, Barack Obama and his administration own every bit of it. There is no other player involved in this.
Nope.
I mean, clearly you got the DNC, you got Hillary Clinton, you got Fusion GPS, you got Bruce Orr, you got Nellie Orr, you got all of these characters that we've come to know and love since all this opened up. But the bottom line is this: all this crap, all this deceit, all this spying, all this nefarious activities took place under Barack Obama's watch, and nobody is really talking about it, except a handful of conservative media outlets. All right, about to go to break. You're listening to the Drive Time SITREP. You've got Denise Simon on one end of this. My name is Don Neuen. We're going to be back in a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. This is the Drive Time SITREP. to the Drive Time SITREP, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don Neuen, and you have got on the up end of the conversation the ever-stellar Denise Simon. We were talking about the Mueller report. We were talking about how Obama's fingerprints are all over this and the tentacles of the Obama administration. Denise, may I ask of you, because I don't think you and I have talked since that report came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
We may have pinged back and forth, but I don't think we had a lengthy conversation.
No.
I'm very curious on your takeaway from Volume 1 and your interpretation of Volume 2, the intended use by design of both of those volumes. I would also like to ask when you think Robert Mueller knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that there was absolutely no collusion. I'd be curious on when you thought that his main pit bull, Andrew Weissman, knew there was no collusion and knew that the dossier was fabricated. How's that for starters? Now I'll put myself on mute and let you talk.
Well, I remember very early on, as Trump was looking like he was going to be the nominee, doing some heavy-duty research on him and his properties, his business, and so forth. And I remember even saying to you, this cat is like terribly connected to a whole pile of Russians. And he was, in some form or fashion. But I had a whole pile of names, probably 40 or 50 of them, but none of them appeared to be, from what I could tell, Russians of any consequence. The Mueller report, as I went through it, because apparently a lot of the names I have weren't even brought up in the Mueller report, but some of the names that were brought up in the Mueller report that I didn't have were Russians of no real consequence. In other words, none of these people were highly connected to the Internet Research Agency. They weren't highly connected to the Kremlin or any of the his entire oligarch kind of thing. So as I was reading through this, I'm thinking to myself, well, this cat's a nobody, and this cat's a nobody, and this cat's a nobody. I mean, they're all saying, well, he's an ex this person and ex that person. Well, yeah, maybe so, but there's a lot of X's out of the Kremlin. So as I was reading through it, I thought, Andrew Weiss, well, let me start off this way. The FBI, with some of these names, especially with the experience that they already had on Felix Sater, who ended up being an FBI snitch too, to kind of get himself out of trouble. I understand that there was necessarily some smoke that was coming from some embers that were burning that the FBI necessarily had to take a look at. I get that. I want them to do that. Maybe these were assumed names or, whatever else. But we have found out, Comey admitted that there's nothing there. Peter Strzok and Lisa Page essentially said there's nothing there. So there was nothing really there.
There never was anything there. There never was anything there.
Well, that's my point. But I think there was a bigger issue here, and that is Comey, I think, had to begin to, and I'm not defending Comey, but Comey, I don't think he got all the briefings from the Bill Priestaps or the James Bakers or the Peter Strzok's that he needed to get. I think he was just kind of left out in the cold because some of these other operatives and whoever was assigned to some of this, they didn't want Comey really injecting himself. And in fact, from what I can tell, Comey didn't really inject himself. He would just kind of hear these reports and go, okay, well, you guys need anything else? And that was it.
Sounds like the way Barack Obama ran his whole administration.
Well, but I'm also thinking...
He's kind of there, but he's, like, not really there.
But I'm also beginning to think that's how... I'm also beginning to think that's how Mueller ran his operation. See what I'm saying?
Look, I think we're going to disagree respectfully on this.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. And the only reason I say that is because, I don't know, last Friday night, last Thursday night, whatever night it was, I was sitting here doing something, and Chaffetz was taking the place of Sean Hannity, and he had Rudy Giuliani on. So it was kind of a little bit of a white noise, and I was kind of listening, and I kind of wasn't. But all of a sudden, I heard Giuliani really defending Mueller. But he wasn't defending the team. He was really going after Andrew Weissman. I can't say when Mueller necessarily knew that there was no there. I don't know that exact moment. It might have been in 2017. It may have been earlier.
July 2017. July 2017, when the text messages broke.
Okay.
That's my suggestion.
Okay.
And I think Weissman knew about this. I believe Weissman knew that the dossier was bogus mid-2016.
Okay. You see how we can't define an exact date? I mean, there's a moment in time, for sure, but we don't know
I can define an exact date. Whatever the date was that the text messages came out between Stroke and Page, and that was, and when I say late July, whatever it was, 28, 29, 30, 31 of July of 2017. With regard to when Weissman knew about this, Google when he and Bruce Orr had discussions. I believe it was May of 2016.
Okay.
I mean, this thing smells like the streets of San Francisco.
Well, I understand that argument. I appreciate the argument, and I could even buy into most of that argument.
So what was on for 600 damn days?
Okay, let me say it this way. I believe in my heart of hearts that if any other outcome had occurred, in other words, if Mueller decided after 90 days there's no there and I'm shutting this thing down, could it be that the Democrats would have cried foul? They would have taken a much harder stance on some of these other activities that, or other Trump progress that he was trying to make, and we wouldn't be where we are today. I guess really what I'm saying here is somewhere between 25 and 35, whatever that number ended up being, $1 million that the Mueller operation cost us. I think if the Republicans and the Trump White House do the right thing, that ended up being free campaign money for his reelection. Do you see what I'm saying?
Maybe, very possibly. And especially if some of these bombs start dropping, like I'm praying that they will in the next few months. Well,
and therein lies where I want. If we do the right thing and, the Huber report comes out, the Horowitz report comes out, Lindsey Graham gets to do what he wants to do, then I would. Precisely. Then, I often call it the drip method, kind of like the irrigation thing. Every 30 days drop something else. That $30 million would be the best. And it was taxpayer money, by the way. So it wasn't, public funds that everybody had to pay for Trump's reelection because of the Mueller report.
Yeah, though, you have always said, and you've said it repeatedly on this show, in politics, timing is everything.
Everything.
I'll tell you why I think Mueller and his little band of ended up taking 675 days to come to this the conclusion of this report, and why they did it in 2 volumes was once they saw that the Democrats gained control of the House, that's when volume 2 was put together.
Well,
that's what I believe, because
okay.
that is nothing more than a playbook.
I disagree.
Okay, then we respectfully disagree. It's a playbook, in my opinion, for them to sit around and beat the damn impeachment drum, which I don't think they're going to do.
Exactly. So what's the worry?
Because all they're trying to do is, like you and I said, the day after the election that took place in 2016, these people are going to do nothing but throw sand in the gears. And this is just more sand. And Mueller, I think that was by design. Denise, you and I, and almost everybody that you and I talked to and listened to, knew this was BS. And we knew it was that way.
I have
way
a different,
back when.
But see, I have a very different focus. I knew that there was a BS part on the collusion or the cooperation or the conspiracy. I knew that because, as I said, I knew those Russians were of no consequence. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is I needed to know what the Kremlin, what the Internet Research Agency, and all of that really and truly did. I got a little bit more than what I already knew, but not enough. There's still a million questions I have there. Certainly going back to, and you were headed in the right direction under Brennan and Comey and Lynch and Obama and Kerry, because none of them did a damn thing to stop the Russians. Now, what did Obama do in December of 2016?
He expelled a bunch of Russians. What a joke that was, though.
That was it. And so that's where my focus has been all along. The other thing is the Mueller report couldn't come out as long as we had, remember, Sessions was gone too. He couldn't necessarily rely on Sessions because everybody hated Sessions. So he couldn't have his report may have been finished while Sessions was still at the Department of Justice, but nobody could rely on Sessions. So Sessions was gone. Then we had Whitaker, and Whitaker was an acting attorney general. Mueller had to wait until Barr got there, and they're very good friends. He had to wait until Barr took the baton, and now we saw what Barr has done with the baton, correct?
Let's put Mueller in front of Congress and find out how strong that friendship is between Barr and Mueller.
Okay, fine.
Because I'm of the belief that if you stick Mueller in front of Congress and you've got people like Nunes and Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows, some of these people that are going to be firing, they better damn well fire the right questions at this man. He's either going to commit perjury, he's going to cave, he's going to plead the fifth and look like a schmuck. I cannot imagine that Mueller testifying before Congress is going to be anything that is going to benefit Mueller or the Democrats. And let's test Barr's friendship.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Here's I don't let any part of my emotion or my blind loyalty or my blind hate get in the middle of all of this. I look at things very clinically, and I still don't. As I said to our friend Tom Del Beccaro, it is fine that we have the Mueller report. I think we have to break down the Mueller report in a timeline, and then whenever the Hillary report comes out from whoever is going to end up publishing it, that timeline has to lay over the Mueller report. You see what I'm saying there? I don't think that.
Yeah.
we have so many gaps and holes, and I mean, I have probably more questions now than I ever had. And
here's a big gap. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I need to see the very moment that Mark Elias, Perkins Coie, DCCC, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, all of these things necessarily took place. I need to hear from NSA or some kind of cyber wing of what we were watching. There's something that tells me that we were all knowing, because the FBI does this. Did Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, as the head of this counterintelligence operation, did they trot on over to the cyber wing of the FBI, which I think the best part of it is actually located in Pittsburgh? Did they happen to trot on over there and have a conversation about what they were seeing with what Russia was doing? Not just the IRA, but any other. Because remember, you had the two units of the Russian military, the GRU units. I had their numbers here on a piece of paper. Unit 2.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Unit 26165 and Unit 74455. I want to know those questions. Remember, we're hearing a snippet here of where there was an actual hack of a Florida county of the voting machines.
Right.
What? Nobody's expanding on that for me? Why not? Where did that go?
But let me interject something here. What the hell has it got to do with Donald Trump?
I didn't say that it did.
But we've wasted 2 years with this crap. For 2 years.
I just don't see it that way.
Well, I see this as an enormous amount of criminal behavior that I damn well hope people are brought to justice. You and I have been talking about this
I don't disagree.
For probably 7 years.
I don't disagree with you. I'm fine. Volume 2, there are things in there that make, Trump look like a babbling idiot sometimes. But he did not obstruct justice. He asked some questions.
How could it be?
Let me finish, Don. Let me finish. He asked some questions of Don McGahn, who is the White House lawyer, and whatever other lawyers. I'm not sure. He may have said, "Hey, if I order you to fire Mueller, what happens?" Or, you can ask a question or make a statement inferring one thing, but it's received, in another spirit of the message. Oh, I misunderstood how you said that to me. So the end result was Trump didn't invoke any kind of executive privilege. Trump turned over billions of pages. Trump didn't fire Mueller. He just went on. Okay, so there wasn't, and even if you listen very carefully to Jerry Nadler, if you listen to his words very carefully, he says, once we review if there was obstruction of justice, if there was, then we will go down the path of impeachment. But impeachment doesn't mean anything. It's never going to even get out of the House.
I know that.
Okay.
And probably if they do pursue this kind of a thing, it's going to backfire just like it did with Clinton.
Well, it wouldn't even ever get that far. Okay, so I mean that's kind of a moot.
You know what I'm saying.
It's a moot point.
Trump is clearly the victim here, and if they keep pursuing this, it will most certainly play into conservatives' hands because he will continue.
Nancy Pelosi had the conference call yesterday. Nancy Pelosi clearly came out and said, we're not doing impeachment. The way the media is doing it is, well, impeachment from what we see right now is off the table, but we're going to pursue the investigations. Okay? That means they got nothing. She said that to appease her caucus. They got nothing. Okay? Zero. So I'm happy they keep talking impeachment. I'm fine with it. I'm really fine with it. Because if the savviness of the Republican Party, the RNC, this White House, and any secretaries of any agencies that he has are doing the right thing, then it can all be thrown back in the Democrats' lap that, you know what? You guys have wasted the Nadlers and the Adam Schiffs and, the Maxine Waters. You guys have wasted time and energy and, major conference calls not doing the people's business, period.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I'm
just
counting
not
on the
fretting
fact
on
that
it.
this is going to, well, I'm not fretting. I'm pissed.
I'm not pissed either.
I'm pissed. And I want the American people to absolutely not let this be water under the bridge. That's all the libs are talking about right now. That's all the mainstream media, outside of impeachment, of course. But let's go back to Brennan. What happened to Brennan? I mean, here we've got this guy.
Between Brennan and Clapper, that's a very interesting thing because both of those cats were on CNN. And they were talking about collusion. And then they were talking about collusion. And they were talking about collusion. Now all of a sudden they're talking about passive collusion. Well, let me say this. Those two cats are responsible for intelligence. Was the NSA giving them information on what they were seeing coming out of the Internet Research Agency? Was the NSA or the FBI giving them information what was coming out of the hacking from the Russian military unit grew on their cyber activities? What did Brennan do with that? Did he put any of that in a presidential daily briefing to Obama? You see what I'm saying? That is exactly.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did,
I'm
Denise.
sure. What my point is, that's where the Republicans and that's where this Trump White House needs to be. They need to prove the failure of Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Lynch, Obama, Jarrett, Susan Rice, Samantha Power, all of them.
Here's what needs to be proved, and I agree with what you're saying. I just want to take it a step further. Every one of these people that you just mentioned believed with their DNA that Hillary Clinton was going to be elected, and any of this nefarious action and any of this inexcusable behavior and irresponsible behavior on the part of our intelligence community and the Obama administration would be swept under the carpet, and it would disappear. That didn't happen. Now they're screwed. They're screwed with Mike Flynn. That, in my opinion, I don't know what your views are on Mike Flynn, but that was reprehensible what happened to him. Did he do things wrong? Sure he did.
Did he break the law?
Sure he did.
Okay.
But what they did to him, and they have absolutely used him, and you know damn well this goes all the way back to the Iran deal.
Well, it goes back. No.
They had to shut him up.
It goes back to when Obama fired him.
Why do you think he fired him?
He fired him over his terrorism policy or lack of terrorism policy.
He also fired him because he was anti-Iran deal, and he was extremely outspoken about it. They had to shut him up, Denise.
Well,
and they did a good job of it.
Right. And so he was mad, and he decided he was going to go over to the Trump camp, and that's when they went after him. But he was guilty. He did break the law.
Okay. So let me ask you this. If he broke the law, why is he not charged with anything?
He is. They've just delayed his sentencing like 15 times.
Yeah, watch what happens with that.
Okay.
Watch what happens with that when they expose what they've done to him. That's even more criminal. Anyhow. Man, this is fun, don't you think, Denise?
This what?
Merry Christmas to you, girl. You Easter worshiper, you. So, see how much time we got here, because this one's moving way too fast for me. You got 3 minutes.
Oh.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, all right, we can get beyond the Mueller report. Let's kind of go back to where these Democrat candidates are. I also would argue that Biden's announcement to run for president is in chaos right now. He's already delayed it. I don't think they've got their act together at all. And he's making his announcement at a union shop someplace, and we've already figured out that
Joe.
But just for fun, you've got candidates that want to eliminate the Electoral College. They want the new Green Deal. They want to break up the banks. They want to tear down barriers. They want free college. They want no death penalty. They want to vote at 16. Vote from prison. This is going to be fun.
Kill babies. Babies.
Yeah, they want to kill babies, but they don't want a death penalty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take advantage of being able to say this again. If you or anybody you know votes Democrat in 2020, they own all of this mental patient behavior and agenda and ideology. They own it 100%. There's absolutely no excuse that anybody in their right minds goes into a voting booth in the fall of 2020 and votes for anybody that has a D behind their name. If you know anybody that does that or is going to do it, go ahead and label them right now that they own all of this stuff. Do you agree, Denise?
I do.
They own it.
And if they want to do things like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders want free college, then I would say, okay, if you want free college, then we're going to put every university professor and administrator, we're going to take them off and we're going to put them on government payroll today. How about that?
Hey, reparations. You forgot that one. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah. Well,
we got Denise. We got to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this week's Drive Time SITREP. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends and your family and any of your liberal friends. That would be great. I love pissing off liberals. Go to Denise Simon's website, founderscode.com. Founders with an S, founderscode.com. Sign up for her email newsletter. You'll get all of her articles. She does absolutely amazing work. Denise,
thank you. Thanks for listening. God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.